is 9:06, and we're in City Hall, room 1010. We have a quorum, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to remind those in the audience who would like to make a public comment or comment on any agenda items to fill out a speaker card and submit them to the officer in the front of the room. Do we have any public comment cards? No. Seeing no public comment, we'll close that. Item number 1. Mr. CLA, could you read item number 1 to the agenda, please?
Sure. Item number 1 is City Administrative Officer Report relative to a request from the Los Angeles Department of Aging for authority to execute proposed amendments to 2015-16 evidence-based program contracts to increase funding levels for the program period April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2016.
Great. This item is asking for approval for the Department of Aging to amend its 2015-2016 evidence-based program contracts to increase funding in order to ensure no cuts in services. This is a one-time increase that was already considered and approved in the budget process. So if my colleagues don't mind, I'd like to move this routine item on consent.
So moved. Second.
And no comment cards again?
No.
All right. Great. We're moving right along this morning. Item number 2, Mr. CLA, could you read that into the agenda?
Item number 2 is a City Administrative Officer and Emergency Management Department reports relative to a request for approval of a proposed contract with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health to provide the EMD with a staff position that will be dedicated exclusively to the city's public health emergency planning function. This item was also referred to Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee.
Do we have any representatives from the Emergency Management Department or the CAO? If you guys could come forward, thank you. This item is relatively straightforward, but I wanted to highlight the importance of this public health program and ask you to briefly review with us the annual program we had with the LA County Department of Public Health since 2007 and explain what the change is this year and how it's been funded.
Yes, good morning. I'm Anna Burton with the city's Emergency Management Department. This position previously, since 2007, has been a loaned staff member for the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. Their grant funding that they received from the CDC was transferred originally to the county's nonprofit, the Los Angeles County Public Health Foundation. And the foundation actually hired the staff member who's been on loan to the Emergency Management Department and working out of our offices as the primary liaison overseeing and supporting all of the public health planning, direct contact liaison. For an example, when we had the Ebola instance, this was the person that was the liaison providing direct input, information, recommendations, and status reports on really international status. In addition, for the H1N1 program, they allocated funds and they donated them to us, and that was the funding that supported flu shots, public health awareness, printing, and other programs. Recently, within the past year, they no longer contract with the PIFI, the County Public Health Foundation, and they recommended to us that they do a direct contract with the city through the Emergency Management Department and fund that position directly, so they would no longer be that third-party employer. So with that today is authorization request to contract with the County Department of Public Health and the position authorization to bring a staff member on board to do that same program. The funding is all through the County of Los Angeles, and it's 100% reimbursable.
Great. So my question is, does this funding cover all of the benefits and personnel benefits and administrative costs as well?
Yes, sir. Correct, Bruce?
And will this impact? Will this change have any impact on our general fund now or in the future at all?
I'm sorry, I was corrected. It covers all the fringe benefits.
Fringe.
Yes.
So is there something that's not covered that we have to cover?
It doesn't cover, what is it, the overhead?
Yes, it does. Mara Legaspi with the Office of the CEO. It doesn't cover the overhead, such as like central services and department admin, but that's typical of this grant.
Okay. So in the past, the county, was a county employee, so we had no fiscal impact.
Exactly.
So going forward, what is our impact to general fund?
At this time, the CEO is recommending that the department absorb the cost of the positions within its operating budget, and then in the mid-year or year-end, if there is a deficit in the department, we would make the department whole through an FSR.
That's one staff?
Yes, one position.
And it's about, so what's our cost?
Based on a hire date of end of November, the direct salary cost is about $53,000.
Colleagues, do you have any questions?
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So the administrative costs of $46,333.7, that's something that we would have to identify funding for, right?
No, it's part of the cost allocation plan, so it's not an actual appropriation that we would have to provide to the department.
So who pays that? Who covers that then?
That's just part of the overall, I guess, city's related costs, to put it simply.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no actual appropriation that needs to be made for those costs.
So where does the money come from?
It's the general fund.
It's okay. It's general fund money.
Yes,
Oh,
it's the
okay.
general fund.
So that is something that we would take on. Is
Yes,
that cost?
exactly.
That's the only cost, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
No comment cards on this item as well, so do I have a second? I recommend approval for this item. Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. No public comments. Item number 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. CLA, if you could read in, thank you very much. Mr. CLA, could you read in item number 3 in the agenda, please?
Item number 3 is motion O'Farrell-Rue requesting the Greater Los Angeles Vector Control District and the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health to report on actions being taken to control the population of disease-carrying mosquitoes in the city of Los Angeles and instructing the Bureau of Sanitation and Bureau of Street Services with the assistance of any applicable city department to report on current and planned mosquito abatement measures and efforts to educate the public on best practices for do-it-yourself water conservation activities. This item was also referred to Energy Environment Committee.
You know, I want to first thank Councilmember O'Farrell for taking leadership in this role, and I know he hosted a large forum in both our districts to educate the public on mosquitoes, especially tiger mosquitoes. And so far this year, we've seen more West Nile deaths in California than ever before. Nearly half of those have been in LA County. Our committee heard a report back in August from the Department of Public Health. However, this issue has only gotten worse and more severe. And the cases of the various mosquito-borne illnesses have added to the public health hazard due to the existence of the exotic tiger mosquitoes in the states as well. We need to do more to work collaboratively to target breeding areas of these insects. So thank you for coming up, Los Angeles Vector Control District. And is there, who else?
Street services?
And street services.
And sanitation.
And sanitation, thank you guys. If you guys could report to us on actions being taken to prevent mosquito-borne illnesses in Los Angeles.
Would you like me to start?
Sure.
Good morning. My name is Suzanne Clue. I'm with Greater LA County Vector Control District. And just to give you a quick overview, and stop me at any time if you're aware of all this, who we are. We're an independent special district, and we provide mosquito control services to 35 cities and large areas of unincorporated LA County. 1,340 square miles, 6.8 million residents. We have 67 full-time employees. We augment that with seasonal staff during the summer. And we're funded by an annual benefit assessment on the residents' taxpayer bill that is currently at $8.97. A vector, and that's the most often asked question we get, what is a vector? A vector is any kind of insect or animal that causes a human disease or a nuisance factor. And the 3 that are high on our list for my agency are mosquitoes, the most dangerous animal in the world, black flies, and midges. There's actually 5 of these independent districts in the county. There's us in pink. We're the largest. We go all the way up to Santa Clarita and have 2 offices in Santa Fe Springs and in Sylma. Then there is the Coastal District, LA County West. There's the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District, Compton Creek, just the city of Compton, and up in the high desert, the Antelope Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. But whenever residents go to our websites, they get directed to the correct agency. The services we provide is mostly mosquito management. We do a lot of inspections. We answer to service requests. In the past, we were priding ourselves for having a 24-hour response time. But recently, with these Aedes albopictus, these invasive mosquitoes, the response time has been longer because we've had so many complaints. We provide source reduction and elimination as well as mostly treatment with biological treatment agents. We provide surveillance of mosquito populations as well as the disease agents that they transmit. And we have our third leg of the stool, which is our important community outreach department, trying to get folks to be aware of the dangers and help us do the right thing. These 3 invasive species have appeared in LA County since 2011. The first one, the Asian tiger mosquito, had a brief showing in 2011 and was thought to be eliminated, but probably hung on a little bit and then reappeared in 2011. Then we also detected the Asian tiger mosquito for us just in the city of Montebello, but now we've heard reports from the west side, like Santa Monica, and moving towards the city of LA, that direction. These mosquitoes are fairly good backyard breeders. And then, very importantly, the yellow fever mosquito that has popped up in large areas of the city of Commerce, East LA, Boyle Heights, and also working its way towards the city of LA boundaries in Florence Graham, just about 2 blocks away from the city border is where we have the closest detection. They get brought in by commercial shipping, by plants, but also, of course, as you can see on that truck there, that's a truck coming from Arizona with household items. Arizona has huge problems with these mosquitoes, and the folks have a bucket there on their truck, and that one probably has the eggs of the mosquito in place, as you will see as I tell you a little bit about these mosquitoes. So usually all mosquito life cycles involve eggs and then a larval and pupal stage in the water and then the adults that fly. The eggs from our local mosquitoes are usually laid in rafts on top of the water, so when you dump out the water, the eggs dry up and the whole problem is solved. These new mosquitoes lay their eggs on the container and they can be viable for many years. So they go with the container wherever the container goes, whether it's pottery from Australia or pottery from China or any kind of flower pot with the eggs in place. These eggs go along with wherever the pot goes. Mosquitoes are tiny anyway. We get a lot of calls in the spring at the bottom there. The big mosquitoes, those are not mosquitoes, they're crane flies. They're perfectly harmless, but residents get upset about them. The Asian tiger mosquito, all these little Aedes mosquitoes are very small, even smaller than most of our usual mosquitoes. You can see since 2011, this has really exploded all over the state. This was an update from October 15th, as it is here, and then you can see even just in a short period of time, we have added additional cities to the mix for, in blue, the Asian tiger mosquito, in Silver Lake, Elysian Valley, and the city of La Cañada, Flint Ridge. And as for the yellow fever mosquito, Aedes aegypti, in the city of Commerce, Pico Rivera, like parts of Los Angeles, the Florence Graham area, East LA, Maywood, Montebello. So it's really been spreading. And I want to particularly point out the activity close to the border down there because we come back to that in a little moment. So you can see it's pretty widespread all over the county. This is a combined map for us and San Gabriel Valley District. All the districts in the area work fairly closely together. And you can see the infestation in Silver Lake and Elysian Valley there that pertains to the city of LA. So they are a good, competent vector. They are a vicious daytime biter. And as you can see, they might impact Southern California lifestyle quite desperately. Residents have noticed this year for the first time, and thus our high call volume for service requests. On the East Coast and in Florida, folks protect their yard, sometimes just their porch, but if they can afford it, their entire yard with these bird cages, I call them, but they're really just mosquito screening so they can enjoy the outside. And I think some of our residents this year got a taste of what these mosquitoes can do. The number of bites were really high. And I live in Azusa. I had, in an effect of 3 minutes, I had 8 bites outside my front door. And they bring with them the increased risk for mosquito-borne viruses, not so much for West Nile virus, even though they can get infected with it and then they could transmit it on to people, but they don't like biting birds very much. But if there's a dying crow in a backyard just kind of sitting there like a sack of virus, they might take a blood meal and contribute some, not to our amplification, but to our transmission to the human population. We're more concerned with these formerly exotic diseases like dengue fever, called the bone virus that has severe flu-like illnesses and really severe bone and joint pains. There is currently no treatment. You just have to make it through. There's no vaccines. There's 4 strains of dengue, and when you get infected with multiple of these strains, the immune reaction gets worse, and it comes to what's called the dengue hemorrhagic fevers that cause internal bleeding and from nose and eyes, and then these cases can be fatal. We also have chikungunya, another one of these rheumatic joint pain cases. More people actually have symptoms of this disease. About 80% of people infected have symptoms, and they're out of commission for about 3 weeks. They can barely stand, leave alone walk. So this is going to have also an economic impact on the region if and when we get an outbreak. And then there's yellow fever, not quite as high a concern because there is a vaccine, and so it hasn't made its way around the world like the other 2 have, because in areas where it crops up, vaccinations are being administered, and it kind of prevents further outbreaks. So that one on our list, but not quite as much of a concern. So there's the cases from late this year, just south of the border, and you can see there's a lot of both dengue and chikungunya cases just across the border, and as people are going for the vacation or for the weekend to visit family and friends, there is a high chance of bringing the disease back to LA County and back to these neighborhoods that now have the mosquito that can transmit it. Our sources in the backyards are mostly all these flowers that hold water in their leaf axils, people's recycling bins that don't drain from the sprinkler water. The eggs are tiny, as you can see in that picture on a stem there. They're being laid on the containers, and they're viable for many years. Also, at the City Hall for Commerce, people had a lot of these indoor plants just with root masses in water. These mosquitoes are very comfortable breeding inside and inside people's homes, and City Hall was pretty infested with these mosquitoes. So I think we removed 3 truckloads of vegetation from inside City Hall, along with the vases and basins and things that they were in. The mosquito eggs, like I said, they're tiny, and they're being laid along containers that currently hold water, or the mosquito somehow knows that it did in the past and may again, and they can be pretty durable. You can see what our technicians are looking for on a bucket. It's really tiny, but then you can see along the water lines, you can see these little black specks. Those are the eggs that are being laid. What do we do for control? We can control all the publicly accessible areas. We control underground storm drains that they breed in, as well as gutters, catch basins, any kind of drainage boxes, like sometimes sumps in industrial areas. There is a lot of sumps under that we can treat. But then we've also had to be in everybody's backyard, and you can see it's a lot of getting rid of the water, but then also getting rid of the container that still has the eggs on it. So when the resident doesn't object, we drill holes in water buckets. I don't know why they don't let us take it, but somehow they're more comfortable with us drilling holes. And I don't know how it's not going to hold water. Again, we have a nice set of things that we have taken from residents' homes. Sometimes all their stuff is covered in tarps to protect from the rain, but the tarp itself has little divots and puddles of water. These mosquitoes can breed in as little as a bottle cap, and I think you were passing around a bottle cap with all the mosquitoes in there. So besides removal of all the sources and trying to get our residents to remove their sources, if there is still no help, then we can do a larviciding with a mister throughout the yard, or we can do an adult control of currently occurring adults. In a case of a disease outbreak, of course, we would immediately resort to control efforts. Currently, we're kind of letting the residents suffer a little bit from the mosquito bites because it increases their willingness to clean up their yard. So since 2011, we've gone through some steps. First, we thought we could get rid of the mosquito. Well, despite our best efforts and lots of money thrown in this direction, there was not really a possibility. We've then switched to the infestation management, trying to get the infestation not to spread. That was also in vain. We're now decided that we need to switch to a long-term strategy that shifts responsibility to the residents for their own backyards. That includes novel control strategy like the releases of sterile male mosquitoes that we're currently conducting in the city of South El Monte in a small area to mate with the females and result in the laying of inviable eggs, so to reduce next year's hatch of mosquitoes. As well as we're really approaching you about what the city can do in the big things, not so much in everybody's backyard, but on the big scale in terms of planning, just as well as we're now building all these structures that are cleaning up stormwater as well as retaining stormwater for future use, because we think many of these stormwater structures have great potential to be huge mosquito breeding sources. So let's look at a few of those. I know that somewhere in the San Fernando Valley there, I couldn't find it again. There is a soccer field that has a water storage area under it, close to an intersection that used to flood regularly, and now the catch basins just go into this big underground storage. It's not really quite a tank, and the water is supposed to infiltrate, which is maybe slightly better than a tank. But you can see right there, the inlet pipe probably goes to the gutter. Mosquitoes will readily fly in and out that pipe, and the outlet, the overflow pipe, probably goes to the storm drain. Storm drains are breeding mosquitoes, so mosquitoes will fly in from the storm drain, and they will use that container at all levels for breeding. As you see, there is a pump, and as the water level kind of goes down to where the pump is, you can see that there will be at least a couple of inches of water that the pump cannot pump out, and these will breed all summer long. So it is really important that we take the right exclusionary matters, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Just in contrast, I don't think we're not against storing water in any way. We're all for this. Obviously, it's something we have to do to keep living in this very dry area. But this is sort of what we think would be the better approach. You can see the downspout from the gutter coming into a gravel bed. There's no ponding right there. There's sand and gravel. The water goes straight through that layer into an infiltration basin that has no outlet to the outside. Some water will infiltrate, some will move over to the filter and then be pumped, both infiltrate there at the bottom, some into the groundwater, as well as pumped back up into another infiltration basin that also has no outside access whatsoever, and then comes back into the pond. So at this point, the only problem we have is to have some fish in that little pond there, and that will take care of the mosquito problems. And a system like that would be much preferred compared to the system that we saw in the previous picture. So there is possibilities of doing this right, and this is sort of what we're promoting. When you see a house with a cistern, these are great concerns because there might be a mosquito breeding source, and we're not just talking about these invasive mosquitoes, but also about our native mosquitoes that spread West Nile virus so readily. There's the gutters that are a concern. They clog up with debris. There's water standing up there, and they breed. So screening the gutters and keeping the leaves out might be an option there. There's the access lids to the cistern. They usually have a hole, so you can pull the lid up. That hole needs a lid or a cork or something, because mosquitoes will fly in through that hole. And then, generally speaking, all the inlet pipes that have openings like this one to the top, mosquitoes will fly in. So we're proposing whenever the city, and we're already seeing some cisterns plans that come through our office, we're proposing these flap valves that close during no-flow times so that mosquitoes can't fly in and out when there's no water flowing. So there is, again, when we go with this kind of approach, we have to make sure that we do the right things, screen vent pipes and things like that so mosquitoes can't fly in and out. Yard drains are a big concern. We like the yard drain boxes that are open at the bottom and have a gravel bed underneath, so water that remains in the box infiltrates eventually. And then we like the pipes that are flat pipes and at the right angle, they will flow. While these corrugated pipes, while they're easier to install, mosquitoes will breed in every one of these little ripples all the way down the pipe. And so that's a real concern. They'll fly in through the box and then breed all the way. And then even if you install the straight pipes and you have the box infiltrating, it would still be good to have some flaps at the outlet that close when no water flows. And these are all just engineering designs that can be very helpful and that will not prevent us from doing this. We just have to face that there's an additional cost for preventing mosquito-borne illness and doing it in the design, because otherwise it will increase the amount of pesticides that has to be used, and we would rather design mosquitoes out of these structures than come back and control them and fine the homeowner under the Public Health and Safety Code. We can go up to $1,000 a day for creating a mosquito breeding, and that falls back on the property owner. So these are good, these are bad. Rain barrels. I know they've been great and they've been a great outreach tool, if nothing else. In Los Angeles, really, when we don't have rain most of the year, in the wintertime, you don't really need that extra water for watering. If it's a regular winter, it rains often enough. And in the summer, when you would need the water, it doesn't rain anymore. So here you have that rain barrel. It's good enough not to even water your lawn once. And then it'll have at the bottom, because the downspouts are never at the bottom, it'll have like about a couple of inches of water that will sit for the rest of the year. So definitely tight fits that are screened, and then also screening up on the gutter so that mosquitoes won't fly in from up on the gutter, or even better, preferably a screen on the barrel directly if you're considering, the city considers handing out more barrels, looking at how they're designed. And maybe even with the plug underneath, so at the springtime when the rain stops and the homeowner isn't going to use the barrel for another few months because it's not going to rain, just pull the plug and get rid of the last couple of inches of water, make sure it's really dry and mosquitoes can't fly in. So all these rain barrels that are going out right now that we don't even know where they're going, these will eventually, when the cats have played with the screens on top, turn into mosquito breeding sources, and we know that many of our homeowners are not going to be quite as diligent with them as maybe they should be. When exclusion fails, the homeowner has some products, natural products available that they can put into their rain barrels, so we're promoting those. And you can see from just the picture there, I pulled that off of Amazon, what's frequently bought together. When people buy rainwater saving containers, they do already sometimes realize that they are going to have mosquito problems, and so they're putting these mosquito dunks in. But these only work if they're maintained very regularly. So I know, and this is also opens me up for questions for you and just my plea. We have some mosquito language in the city LIDS ordinance already, as well as in some of the language that moves water conveyance systems where mosquitoes are mentioned. We've seen a few plan reviews. Usually the plans go to the health department, and if the health department decides that we should take a look at the plan, it goes to us. I don't know that we can fully facilitate a speedy return if we start getting thousands of plans. As long as the plan volume is low, we can be pretty good. But I think a good plan review structure should be created, and we could definitely train the reviewers, because as you've seen, it's not that many things to look out for when you look at a plan like this to make sure it is a mosquito good mosquito exclusion design versus a bad mosquito exclusion design. Some systems are already in place, and I've worked on a Caltrans study for a lot of these stormwater BMPs that clean up stormwater, and I think like almost all of them are breeding. I brought with me the BMP manual, and maybe you maybe have that already, or I can give it to you, that explains mosquito exclusion and treatment in stormwater BMPs as well. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Sanitation or Street Services, would you like to add anything?
Chi Ming Gong for the Bureau of Street Services. Thank you, Councilmember Wu, Councilmember Mosquito, and Councilmember O'Farrell. Excuse me. I'm here to provide a verbal report of what the Bureau's current and future efforts are regarding this particular issue. At present, our current efforts are twofold. One is regarding our motor sweepers. Our fleet of motor sweepers are able to address this quality of life issue on a citywide basis by weekly motor sweeping of the restricted parking routes. If they know of an area where there is chronic standing water, they're instructed to make multiple passes to do what they can to disperse that water. Couple that with our increased enforcement activity, and I just want to clarify, it's not really enforcement where we go out and hammer the people and actually cite them. We're actually out there to just give them a friendly warning and say, we know we're in a drought situation, so we just want to know, where's the water coming from? Can you help us out? Figure out if somebody's sprinklers just need to be repaired, or if somebody has some kind of discharge that maybe we need to follow up with. Just be our eyes and ears and help us out here. The other activity that we've also invested in is going out and proactively sweeping those routes that are not on a restricted parking basis. We've gone out and proactively done that to go and pick up what debris there is in the street before it gets to the catch basins, before it serves as generation of breeding grounds for the mosquitoes. So far, in the last few weekends, we've swept approximately 4,000 miles throughout the city, and we're going to continue that effort for the next several weekends. As far as a future effort that the Bureau is investing in, we are looking at proposing a dedicated crew to go out and directly address those areas that are known to us that are simple breeding grounds. Most common ones are the off-grade curb and gutters that seem to be related to tree roots. Back when we had such a crew, back in the 2006, 2007 through 2008, 2009 fiscal years, we were able to address hundreds of locations. We feel something like that would be better served where we can hit some of those locations that we know are off-grade. We know we need to go out and do some remove and replacement and to address some of the worst of these scenarios. And that's all I have.
Deborah Dietz, Bureau of Bureau of Sanitation. I'm a landscape architect. I'm working on a number of projects that are dealing with stormwater that are at regional scale and at stormwater distributed scale, as well as the Green Street scale. And all of these different scales require a close interaction with vector control and county health. I mean, I really think that the future of our whole stormwater program rests on dealing with these issues effectively. And I want to thank, Councilmember O'Farrell, Rue and Buscaino for calling this attention to our great need to work through these projects and programs and develop standards that we disseminate through our LID office, our LID counter, to the developers for their private projects. From what I'm hearing, really that is the bigger challenge because our regional projects are in the open and they're easier to be maintained from a standpoint of lots of eyes on the projects, lots of eyes on the parks. But where we have hidden opportunities for vector breeding is where we really are in danger. So we are looking at our LID program and how we can work with better, educational opportunities to give out to the public so that they know that their efforts are well received and they're safe. So again, the point being that preemptive control is a lot better than having to be responsive, and the responsive issues are much more difficult to deal with and really not where we want to be headed. So I think those are the goals of sanitation.
Great, thank you very much. That was a very fascinating presentation. One of the slides, did you say that you recovered some pots from City Hall?
Yes, actually, when we first found the yellow fever mosquitoes, Aedes aegypti, we got calls from the City of Commerce, and they were saying that they were getting bites of an insect inside City Hall. All of their city workers were getting bitten, and they asked us to come out.
City of Commerce?
Yeah, City of Commerce.
Not City of LA, okay.
Yeah, so we went out, and we found all of these plants in like glass vases with the root balls. They look beautiful. They crawl over everybody's desk, and most of them were breeding, and so our technicians went through and took all of these, and that really helped the problem. Of course, we found then that City Hall was not the origin of the infestation at all. It was just they had construction work in the library, and so they had the doors open to City Hall, and the mosquitoes just flew in and found all these vases and utilized them. So this is a concern because when we have an outbreak, we'll probably have breeding inside people's houses. So we're getting ready right now to treat inside people's homes. Usually, most of our treatments are only restricted to the yard, but when we have dengue or chikungunya cases, most likely there's more family members in the same family because the mosquitoes are inside, and so they go to the next person and bite, and so we're looking into control measures inside houses.
And you said the eggs live for a long time. So how do you kill the eggs?
Yeah, very difficult. Like for now, the best we found is sanitation, just removing the bucket or the vase or whatever they're breeding in. So we have really been removing things from residents' yards by the truckload, and then we drill holes or break it if it's porcelain, and then we dispose of it so that it goes to the landfill in a way where it won't hold water if it's not immediately covered up wherever it goes. But the truth is, as this is spreading, and we have like over 1 million yards in our service area, we will not be able to take everybody's trash. So this is where we're now shifting to making the resident responsible for cleaning up their yard, and then we can come out and see what we can do in addition. But I think it's going to take neighborhood efforts and neighbors talking to neighbors. And these mosquitoes don't fly far. They only fly about a quarter of a mile, maybe 250 yards at the most. So I think if you can get 5 or 6 of your surrounding neighbors to cooperate, neighbors can actually see the effect of keeping their neighborhood mosquito free. And I think that's one of the big advantages that really works.
I loved your PowerPoint. Do you have like a shorter version? I'd love to put it on my website.
Yeah, I could shorten it to whatever extent you would like me to, and then I can send it in to you.
Or, if you could give us a shorter
Yeah,
version.
you could just, I think this one I send in to Star, so, and you can shorten it as as you would like, you know.
Or if, oh, I don't know, or the most key information of
Okay.
those
I was
pictures,
on a-
like
on a-
yes, no's, those
Yeah.
are really
Yeah, a
informative.
few
And
quick, yes, we can put something together and send it in.
that would
That'd
be
be
great.
very much appreciated, thank
And
you.
we'll put that on our website. And
Anything-
does vector control have any information on habitats and ecosystems that are particularly problematic in council districts or in areas on a district basis? Do you?
Yeah, we certainly do. We know all the big sources and the problem areas. I know Deborah here is working on some of them. They're trying to make them better, probably be better for a while. Usually maintenance is our big issue, you know. We build something that is designed well and that's even fully functional at the beginning, but if there's not money, especially as we're renaturalizing the LA River with all the wetlands that are planned, they're beautiful natural places for our residents to go and enjoy, but if it's completely mosquito infested, nobody's going to want to be there, and it's not going to be safe either. So I think once we build them right, we have to have and set aside the money to maintain them.
Great. So if you could share us that map. I mean, I know this is the infestation area.
This is
but
the infestation area.
Potential problematic areas.
Yeah, we could do that as well.
Get together. Yeah, district by district. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so when you guys, I know you guys are all working together or working independently, but how do you guys work together when you actually find a problem?
Well, on the big projects, we work together on the design. We try to be on the committees that work on the design. And I know Deborah has sent me emails multiple times when there's any questions or concerns. So we work on that. But oftentimes, I'm not always aware. So the outreach from your staff is definitely what would make me aware of a problem sometimes.
Yeah, and our routine maintenance staff that work on our stormwater collection systems that keep the water free flowing are really important because the water standing versus moving is a big deal. And so we're really trying to make sure that our routine maintenance crews are up to speed and keeping the overall system free of vectors.
Yeah, and you know, we've got good responses. Sometimes we have some vehicles that go into all the storm drains and they have a blade, so if there is vegetation or trash blocking the way, they'll shove it away and out of the area where the water flows, and then we'll call up and your guys will come in and remove the trash that we have piled in one location.
So if you could get us that map by district, and then if maybe sanitation could comment on what's being done. And is there any way we could set up a system where vector control or the Department of Public Health notifies council offices or sanitation notifies us of mosquito breeding grounds so we can help ensure that they're abated and especially on our website let people know exactly which areas are a little bit more should be heightenedly aware?
Yeah, I mean, if you suggest how you want to do that, we'd be happy to participate for sure. I think for all the big sources, this is not going to be so hard, but for the new mosquitoes, it's going to be a backyard battle. It's kind of an everybody's backyard battle, so that's going to be a little bit more difficult. But if the council members in their districts can do outreach, if we have areas that are particularly affected, and we like Councilman O'Farrell was very speedy there to the turn. We had a little community event. We can do this again as well. We haven't had that much attendance. It was a rainy night, but we're open to do this anytime and anywhere.
So can you notify us then? Because we wouldn't know. I mean, if
Yeah.
residents call us, definitely. But if you can notify us, so we could start.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think as we see the emergence of these mosquitoes in other districts, we will definitely notify the council members.
Okay, great. Well, I know Councilman O'Farrell has questions.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, Suzanne and Deborah, thanks for coming to the community meeting and thanks for responding so quickly. A couple of things. We were notified by a community member who has a formal relationship with County Vector Control, and that's how we found out, and that's why we instituted this motion in this community hearing. If you look at that one previous map, you look at the cases of dengue fever and chikungunya in Mexico in the thousands from tiger mosquitoes and maybe other mosquitoes, but primarily tiger mosquitoes. The bad news is that tiger mosquitoes have been seen in Silver Lake and Elysian Valley in the 13th District, maybe in the 4th District too. I'm not sure exactly where in Silver Lake, but I think it was near the border. You know,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's in the city of LA. And so that's the bad news. The good news is there haven't been any cases of dengue or chikungunya in LA that we're aware of, right? In
Yeah,
LA City.
not locally acquired.
Not
Yes,
locally.
we have a lot of travel-related cases,
But not locally.
not locally
acquired.
transmitted as far as we know.
More good news is that once the mosquitoes are flying around, their territory is fairly small. So you can have a real comprehensive approach in a neighborhood and pretty much, if everyone does their diligence, wipe out the possibility of them reproducing. So that's more good news. So and this was a somewhat edited version from the presentation we got at the community meeting.
Yes.
So that's good. It has a lot of critical information, and I think you covered every single thing just in a more condensed version, so that's good, because people really need to know how the fact that the eggs can sit there on a dry piece of material for years and add water and they come to life. It's kind of like, putting a recipe in an oven and baking something, and so they're very, very intrepid little creatures. So there are a couple of things that came to mind with this presentation, though, and that is the rain barrel distribution is largely done by Los Angeles Beautification Team. So if you haven't met up with Sharon Romano yet, I'm going to connect you with her so you can have a conversation with her.
Yes, that would be good. Sharon
They're
Romano.
distributing them by the hundreds across the city.
Yeah, we're aware that they are, and we've reached out occasionally to at least have like an informational leaflet that mentions mosquitoes included with the material that goes out to the homeowner when they do.
So I think maybe just a sit down with her, or a phone call or a conference call, and we'll help arrange that, because that's going to be helpful. 2, are there any predator birds that we can talk about at all? I know, here's an example. I grew up in the state of Oklahoma. Mosquitoes are bad there. They have what's called purple martins, and we import them. And when you had a purple martin birdhouse in your yard, they ate a lot of mosquitoes. And so that was one somewhat natural way of taking care of it. So I was just wondering if perhaps there's a local species on the scene that we could encourage that would, swoop down and eat these mosquitoes, gnat catchers, whatever.
Yeah, I think unfortunately you need really bad mosquito conditions in order for birds to really even consume them in large numbers. We have school classes come through, and I ask them, would you rather run around chasing a gummy bear all day and eat that, or would you go after a peanut butter sandwich if it was the only thing you would be getting? And I think it's why birds eat moths and butterflies a lot more than they eat mosquitoes, because they disperse, and unless you get a whole mouthful of them, they really don't make up for the effort of catching them. So birds don't usually prey on mosquitoes very much. Most of the predatory thing happens in the water, where fish are great. If you have a really well orchestrated ecosystem with dragonfly larvae and things that eat mosquito larvae, you can find some balance.
Okay. Deborah, did you have something about that?
We use gambusia on some of our projects, the mosquito fish, and actually they've been effective. But I had a question just in terms of the scale being one that may be elevating, is the question of funding to do this and the question of the need for resources to really effectively do this is one that I'm battling with in other ways. And I just wonder if there will be a time when we end up moving, actually Suzanne could answer this, we move to finding people who are found to have vector problems, because I think that's where the rubber hits the road. I know that there's people who don't take this seriously enough. We've encountered a lot of those people, and I'm just very concerned about it.
Good point.
Yeah, actually, so the California Health and Safety Code has an option for us to call what's called the abatement process, in which we could levy up to $1,000 a day. It's a very cumbersome process. We just had our board pass a resolution that spells out exactly how we would have to go about it, but we have to notify the offender, then they get a chance to appear in front of our board. They meet monthly, so here we are, like usually 3 weeks later, right? So it drags out, then they have a chance to correct that. If they correct it, it resets the clock for the fining immediately. You can't just fine them for past bad behavior. And so what we have done, we've usually involved code enforcement, because many of the things that cause us problems, like extensive hoarding, or also violate city codes. And so for many of the cities that we've worked with a lot now, we've actually brought in code enforcement, and they have levied the fines because they have a much quicker process.
Which is still very slow, by the way.
Which is still very slow, I know.
No, we have a very lenient sort of enforcement system, county and citywide. It drives me crazy. Anyway, the last point I wanted to make was river restoration. The good news there is that we haven't done any massive projects yet. We will eventually. So it's good that we have conversations like this well in advance of actually re-engineering entire portions of the LA River. So that's good. And I think the good news also is that we're aware of this is just what's on the scene now in terms of invasive species. There will be others invariably as we become much more, smaller as a world community. So it's good that we can work with our designers, our engineers, our architects, cross-jurisdictional, to really plan this out in terms of prevention and not the opposite. So again, thank you so much. And I would like to call for the written report to continue this dialogue is what I'd like to see. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's no public comment on this. And yes, so if we could get that written report as well as the shortened PowerPoint presentation that we could all put on our websites.
Quite definitely. And a list of big mosquito sources by district.
Oh, and which one is which? Is this white? Is this tiger mosquito?
Oh, I think the bigger ones are our local house mosquitoes, southern house mosquitoes, and those little ones are the Asian tiger mosquitoes. They're tinier.
This is the
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Thank you for that. So I recommend that we approve this item with the report back. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilmember O'Farrell. And with no other business before us, meeting is adjourned. Thank you for the departments and everyone else who came.